amongst all of us. I never want it to be.
You're not recording.
Right.
Oh, there we go.
Welcome back to the Zeus, Friends of Zeus podcast. I'll get all the business out of the way. Look for us on, fuck you, Mike. Look for us on YouTube at the Giants Jack our channel under the Friends of Zeus podcast. We're still working on Spotify. It's a slow but steady thing. Or actually, it's just slow, not steady at all. Our webpage, our Facebook is the Friends of Zeus podcast. And tonight we have a new guest, Mr. Michael Nelson. Michael and I worked at a place called, well, we won't say the name so that he can come on again. But we worked together for a long time, actually doing something very similar to this. We did video visits for a medical company. And we were kind of for the company. Would you agree we were kind of the pioneers with it?
Yes, we were. We were doing it well before COVID ever happened, when it really kind of came into its own. We
were the Donner Party of video videos.
Yeah, and there were people trying to consume our flesh. We were not cannibalized, but we were not cannibals, but we were practically victims.
Yeah, he was pretty much, Mike was pretty much with me through, I'm going to get it out of the way now, while I was training to be a psych nurse.
Nice job, Zeus.
What? It's just knocking it out now. They like to think that I over exaggerate my importance to humanity right now.
No, you don't.
I'm a frontline warrior, bitches.
Well, what they don't probably know is our ability to traumatize this lovely nurse that used to sit near us by repeated instances of flatus.
That's right. We used to just, hey, you hear that? What?
Yeah, at least that loud.
They hate
it. Was Biden quality.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. And Mike, let's see how good your memory is. What do I hate?
Not that good, Mitty.
Oh, come on. When are we
What do you hate?
People.
Andrew? You hated Andrew?
Oh, despise him. We worked with this guy that looked exactly like Homer Simpson. Like literally bald, dumpy, yellow skin.
His name was Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just didn't have
Welcome
all the
to the podcast
that Homer does.
Yeah, we had good times. We got to get together so we can buy each other a bottle of booze. We've missed a few.
Yeah, that would be a good idea, because I always think a bottle of booze is the best thing that one can do to combat COVID, because I don't think those little fuckers like landing in a pool of alcohol.
So, Michael, what general geographical area are you residing in? For our
the post office thinks it's Herndon.
Okay.
The tax people think it's Fairfax County, kind of halfway between Fair Oaks Mall and Reston Town Center.
Gotcha. So this is like a Fairfax podcast plus Jack.
Yeah.
Plus
I think so.
Jersey, baby. Represent.
All right. Jersey and Fairfax.
Yeah, we had a good time working together. Every birthday we bring to work a bottle of booze for the other guy. We just bring it into work. We put it in a bag. Be tempted to take shots all the time. It was good times. And Mike was at my graduation when I became a psych nurse.
Who?
I didn't realize that. I hadn't realized that.
Jason and Mike, actually. And Katie.
Yeah, in fact, I remember Jill Biden was there.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Dr.
both squeezed her ass a little bit.
Jill Biden.
She's at, you know what? For what it's worth, she was rather interesting. She wasn't, I didn't dislike her.
No, she's not a dislikable person.
No, she's pretty cool. So the topic for the show this week is woke. Thus the picture behind me that says awake, not woke. Just kind of our perceptions on how we feel it's affecting society, how it's affecting us. Generally, just that in a nutshell. I did a little bit of looking around, and I found it interesting that like beatniks were, because that's where the woke thing came from, basically. Were both counterculture and like pro-America, right? They were putting all, so they dropped off the part that was good. I don't necessarily dislike hippies, but there was some involvement in society, but they were also quite opposed to a lot of things that were going on. But that's what I found out about it. I found was interesting because I don't think it reflects what this woke culture is now. For me, I don't know if you guys will agree, but I think it's hard to argue that woke culture for me seems to be more about shame, like pointing out something that happened that you weren't involved with, but you didn't directly attack it. So therefore you're passively letting it happen, and things just, for me, are not that simple. You've got your own problems. You should be trying not to hurt others. You try to respect what they do, but I think it's gotten to a point where people don't want to be put in boxes. So what do? They put themselves into boxes. You know what I mean? It's just a disturbing time for me. I feel like it's going away, but I don't think it's going away fast enough. And I think the residual harm is
Not going away. No.
I feel like it's not, the impact isn't as strong now. Like it's not all over the news and everybody's saying woke this, woke that. It's become more of a underlying theme. I'm not going to say zeitgeist because we say that way too much, mostly me.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you guys think?
I think that Tom and I in this frame are like Statler and Waldorf.
That stupid bear.
We got to work on some bits. So you're giving it way more thought than most people do. It's about control of people through language and through definitions. That's what it's about.
I'm totally on board with that. I just didn't mention that.
I mean, nobody's thinking about it as much as what you just thought. I mean, you thought about it more than most people ever think about it.
More people should think about it.
If you control language, you control people, and it has as much power over the individual, the group, the whatever, as it is allowed to have. If you just refuse to engage with it, it doesn't have any power over you.
What kind of brought this on? So the elections last week, and this kind of goes to what Zeus was saying about whether or not the wokeness is kind of dissipating or if it's going to, hold on to its strength. But the elections last week, so in Virginia where we live, a Republican, Youngkin, beat Terry McAuliffe, and McAuliffe was supporting a lot of these CRT and the other woke aspects. So, and then you saw what happened in New Jersey as well. Nice going, Jack. I hope you were one of the ones out there voting, where the truck driver beat the long-term incumbent Democrat there. So the question was, okay, is this kind of a knee-jerk reaction to all of what's going on with the wokeness and just things getting carried away, the critical race theory, the school boards, the departments of education are just lying to us, telling us that the CRT is not in the schools, but you can still go on the Virginia the education website and you can see it's still referenced there, and they talk about how important it is. So it's still there in print on the website. So the question is, were these recent elections just a blip, or is this kind of an awakening from the other side, from people that are living in reality, that are waking up to this kind of a counter wokeness? Is that what we're seeing? So that was really what my question was. It kind of brought on this topic for tonight.
It's almost like, how we see these graphs of how the virus going like this and like that. It feels like we're in that part of woke, like it dropped away, coming back up stronger than it did before. We're in Delta variant woke.
Where it's resurging?
Yeah, I've been feeling it more like I said, I showed you guys a few weeks ago that damn checklist thing for my kid's school paper or school, you know, whatever documents. And it says gender, male, female, non-binary. And the thing, I don't know if I mentioned it then, but the thing that occurred to me is that used to be sex, male or female.
Right.
So they just, like this whole attack on words, we've discussed this before, but there's this whole like reforming of how we talk, what we say, what we can and cannot say. But it was a very subtle, won't really notice unless you're highly intelligent like us, the change from sex to gender on that. They're two completely different things.
But yeah, that whole gender and sex are two distinct things. That's also evolved to be more woke, because now they're disregarding that distinction completely. And now they're saying, like, when what's the transgender's name, the one that just became the highest ranking admiral, isn't it Rachel Levine or something?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, when that actually happened, they referred to her as the first female 4-star admiral. So they basically, said, okay, now it's not, she's a woman.
So what you have is you have misogynists who are anti-feminist, anti-traditional feminists, who are painting themselves as victims, and you have racists who are trying to paint everyone else in society as racist. Everything's upside down. Look, it's if you engage with it in using their language, you've already lost the game. You've already lost. I mean, again, this whole idea like wokeness, what is woke, what is blah blah blah. This is at its core, it's Marxist. It's dividing people by identity. It's trying to control people, shame them,
Shame
divide
is the
them.
key. Shame is the key here.
But again, it's like when we talk about social media and Facebook and Twitter. Everyone knows my opinion on Facebook. Just go back to a few episodes. But it's as powerful as you allow it to be. It's as powerful as you engage with it. It's as powerful as you prop it up. It's like what Dave Chappelle said. He doesn't give a shit about Twitter because Twitter is bullshit. Twitter doesn't exist in the world. It's only if you actively engage with it. So don't actively engage with it.
So I'll give you an experience that I had this week, if I may. When I was working on my unit as a psych nurse, I had a patient that they identify as they and them. But here I am, I'm 50, I'm getting there, and this slip ups come out, and I was like, all right, sweetie, you're doing great. And I go, whoa, sorry, like, why should I be doing that? It's a girl, right? And I do appreciate people wanting that, but she was like, no, it's okay when you do it. And I'm like, I don't get it. It's selective anger about these things. And this patient also said something to me that really kind of nailed it.
Wait, why is sweetie restricted to like one gender or the other?
Fair enough.
I use it for like all of my boys and girls, my kids.
Right.
Fair enough, but more to the point.
Well, any good waitress in a coffee shop's going to call everybody sweetie.
Young lady more.
Right.
Moms speak to the boys, but I think it probably leans more female non-binary.
Well, that's kind of sexist, don't you think?
I know, I'm sexist. So
And loving it.
So you were being, no, you were being woke by using it for somebody that identifies as a non-female.
But if you look into the
So
point
there
of
you go.
this, the interesting thing about this was that the thing that they said was that the reason they like to dress up and look like a boy is because they like to shock people that assume that they were a boy and then they're a girl. But my point is you're not really, this is one of the people that I would say you should explore your sexuality and then do these things. Like there should be, you know, a list of things that you have to do to show that it's really what you're married to. Because I was like, it sounds like you just like to get a rise out of people. And they were like, a little bit. And I said something female this or that towards them on more than one occasion because they're a kid, they're 18, you know? And it didn't bother them when I did it because they knew where I was coming from. But if somebody else were to do it, I feel like there might be a different reaction. It depends on what they are gonna get out of it.
So I have to say, Zeus, when he's looking up above the camera, he's looking at Tom and I, and vice versa.
Actually,
We're
like,
looking at each other.
right into your eyes.
Like, very nice. Well, it's like the CIA ad, which we should link to in this video, and I kind of thought about it. I mean, where these people who are all into this intersectionality, I mean, they're like the most fragile personalities I've ever known in my life. I mean, the arrogance of these people who define themselves as this self-aggrandizement, this like, I am this, who does that? I mean, this is foreign to me. I don't understand it. Like the hubris and just the arrogance is, I just reject it 100%. Like, I'm not buying into it. You know, it's like, I'm so special and I need F that, dude. I mean, everyone is challenged with their own values of self-worth and feelings of inadequacy. This is called being a human being, right? So this whole idea that this certain group can kind of you know, be like the injured, it completely ignores the challenges that every other person in the human condition deals with. You know, it's offensive to me, and I just reject it 100%. I just don't buy into it.
But
Pride is a sin.
But basically, I think what it is, it's identity politics. And I think there's a thing called intersectionality, which basically breaks it down to the more minority groups you're a part of, then the more you should be looked at with sort of special leniency and sort of special aggrandizement, special pride. And so that means that if you can say I'm a minority racially and gender-wise and I'm LGBT, whatever, then you're supposed to stand up boldly and proudly of it. And that's kind of what we're talking about. And I agree with you. It's borderline obnoxious because in real life, you know, like I don't walk around saying, I'm proud to be a dad. I'm proud to be Irish Italian. You know what I mean? Like, I'm proud that I have a cock and balls.
I'm proud you have a cock and balls too.
You know, I'm proud that I like women. Like it would be.
The inference, the thing that I take offense at is the inference is that there are people who are, the inference is that we or that everyone else is looking down their nose at these people.
Right.
And that's a lie. And so it's an accusational statement. If you are, you know, like again, in this CIA commercial, I am this, I am that, I'm standing up. It's like, okay, whatever, dude, that's cool. Or lady, I'm not giving you any grief about that. And there's this implied comment that everyone else is somehow oppressing you, right? So like,
it's a qualification. It's like when Zeus says, I'm a psych nurse, so the opinion I'm about to give you is much more valuable than yours. So that's, and they say, I'm a, Asian, so-and-so.
That's not why, it's because I'm a narcissist.
They're trying to qualify themselves as a,
Proud.
but the problem is, I mean, all of that is nice, and you can be proud of what you are, and you can say who you are and what you are. That's okay. But when you remove the meritocracy, which is what you're doing with all of this equity, where you say, okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, Brandon here is much more qualified for the job, but we're going to give it to somebody else because they have the intersectionality that we're looking for. So that's a problem, because you should hire the people that are best for the job. That's my issue with it.
Yeah,
Colonel Nelson.
that's a
Sorry,
real
Jim.
issue. That's a real issue because it's been going on for a long, long time. And anybody who started to question it, even like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, was called paranoid. I mean, and now it's actually happening. I think there was some report that like 50 Forbes like top companies, for hiring, they're now going to have to like put it in writing why they hired a white person. I remember seeing something like that on Fox News.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson, you look like you've been chomping at the bit for a while.
Chomping.
Yeah,
Mike?
Michael B.
Yeah, I don't know. I like I was saying, to me, this is all very George Orwell. It's like getting people to, there's things they know that are not true, but getting them to acknowledge it just publicly because that's what society or the government wants. My big thing on this whole thing is, it's like history is history. It's there and we should learn from it. And this is like the French Revolution when the Reign of Terror is going on, and basically they're renaming all the streets so that they won't be named after any of the royalty. Or it's like after the Bolsheviks took over in the Soviet Union, and basically they renamed all the hospitals with saints' names and gave them Trotsky's name or something like that. It's just stupid. And
China too.
it's you need to basically know what happened so that you can assess it as either good or bad. You don't want to destroy it.
Right.
I think a lot of this is tied to that socialism, like when St. Petersburg changed to Leningrad. That's what's happening here today as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, and it continues on. That's just kind of the way they do things.
It's the ever present now, and then there is no history. There's only the present. And we've said this on previous episodes, and
Yeah, we have.
2 weeks ago doesn't matter. Everything is evaluated, in the present, and it's not really socialism. I mean, that's more of an economic construct. It's Marxism. It is the destruction of. It is the tearing down of norms, the tearing down of history, the tearing down of commonality, and then trying to reconstruct it into something else. Look, they put a Band-Aid on it to try and sell it, but the reality is it's the tearing down of the founding of this country. It's an attack in saying that the founding of this country was inherently racist, and the only way, because there is systemic racism, the only way to correct it is to destroy it and rebuild it something else. And the party, which we used to call the Democrat Party, openly refers to this as reinventing, reimagining these words. These are, this isn't new.
Yeah.
This has happened before. This lingo. This is,
And it's like
teeth
this.
are out, man. They're not even hiding it anymore. Today's Marxists in America would have you believe that there has been that the 1965 Civil Rights Act never happened, that things are worse now than they ever have been, right? It's not, here's the thing. It's not about what it's about. It is a rhetorical, it's like rhetorical jujitsu, right? So they are putting arguments up that they're not even trying to defend. They're trying to knock everyone off their own center and trying to make things. Again, look, there are this whole thing with like white supremacy, right? There, self-included, there are people that came to this country well after slavery happened, well after. But you're lumped into again, it's like this original sin or something. Look, it is about tearing down norms. It's about tearing down this country and trying to reinvent it, into something else. And that something else is a powerful, centralized, tyrannical, iron-fisted power structure. That's what it is. That's what they want.
I agree.
Well,
It has nothing to do with liberty. Look, you never hear anyone in the party and thank you, Governor DeSantis, in the Brandon administration speak about liberty or personal freedom or consent of the government. I say this in like every fifth episode. You will never hear these people espouse the virtues of individual liberty. And that's everything that this country was founded on. They're not interested in that. That is not relevant to their interests. This is a existential threat that this country is facing right now. And you have people, you're not just American by being in America. America is an idea. It's not a place. Americanism is an idea. Just because you live here doesn't mean you're necessarily a believer in Americanism. And it is under threat, and it is real. It is not a joke. And we're living through it right now.
yeah, well, even if you believe that, and I agree with you, Mike, wholeheartedly. But if Americanism is an idea, and America is the country you live in, and if you love the country, then it's fair to say that you're a nationalist, like you love this nation. And that word now has become another word that has a whole different connotation now. I mean, it really does. They've made that a bad word, to love the
It's
nation.
not.
I know it's not.
It may or it may not. I mean, I think there's hope. We're seeing a glimmer of hope from last week with the elections, like even in some deep blue states that Republicans are winning or coming close to winning. That's kind of a wake-up call, or it at least gives us hope. But my worry is when you see the reactions of the party, as Mike calls them, they didn't, I don't think they learned a lesson from that. They kind of doubled down. They say, okay, well, we got to spend more money. We got to try even harder to be more evil. And maybe that'll work. Maybe we weren't being evil enough.
They also labeled all those people that flipped and all those Karens out there as racist.
It's more of the same. It's more the lies and the labeling. And they didn't learn a lesson from last week. So I don't know. I think you're going to see this sort of rebellion against the wokeness that's going to continue probably through the 2022 elections. We'll see, but I don't know if you can root it out. It's kind of a deep-seated thing. The problem is it's being taught in the schools. So it's kind of going to be an uphill battle for everybody else to kind of deprogram our own kids.
I think that's one of the big problems is the schools. I think we've lost the schools. And I think, I think really proud. I don't have any kids in school now, but I think probably most parents are pretty conscientious about it. But the extent they've taken over is really alarming. And I don't know. I always kind of admired people that did homeschooling, and I was kind of thinking COVID would be a really good opportunity for somebody to push that hard to get away from government schools, where basically there's a little bit more of a variety of a market out there for a parent to choose from.
Right.
I just don't think enough people can do it on a widespread level that would be able to counteract the wave of indoctrination that's happening in the schools. I mean, maybe you get even if you had like 1% of kids being homeschooled, the other 99% are doomed.
I actually, I had a question about that. Does anybody know when the Federal Department of Education was actually started?
During the Carter administration.
Yeah.
That's right. Not that fucking long ago.
Right, and now if you say that we need to reform or dismantle the Department of Education, the party press says that you are against education.
Right.
yeah.
Look, again, it's something else we talked about in previous episodes. Civics is a very important thing, and civics is something that has not been taught robustly in this country in a generation and a half.
They don't even have social studies. Remember social studies where it was a little
Yeah,
bit
geography, history, nice things to know.
People are disengaged, especially the younger generation. I mean, we're all like,
They still have
most of
social-
you guys are much, much older than me, but we're like approaching or in our 50s. And even in our generation, it was already kind of waning, and you disconnect people from their country. And again, I've made this argument before, and people kind of don't have this perspective. The perspective is, look, the American experiment is the revolutionary experiment. We are the revolutionaries. We are the ones that have rejected, being subjects. We have embraced self-rule, self-determination, consent of the government, consent of the governed, individual liberty. That is unusual in the history of the world. What we're experiencing right now with this Marxist march, this is a counter-revolution, right? And what has been happening is us, our children, and younger generations are being unplugged from their birthright, from what they have been through. I mean, look, if America, there's so many things that are contradictions that Marxists put forth. Okay, on one hand, they say America is a inherently racist, systemically racist.
Mike, you see this?
Okay, and yet everyone all over the world is trying to get here. Like, how do you bring that? Like, how do you make sense of that? Right? You can't make sense of that because what they're saying is untrue. It's like if this country was so horrible, and so we are the ember of human freedom, of self-determination that's in the world. And if America goes out, that's it. There is no other place to go.
Oddly enough, last week, so Glenn Youngkin got 54% of the Hispanic vote in Virginia. So how do you explain that? I mean,
Yeah,
MSNBC and CNN said that the election of Lieutenant Governor Sears, that she had black lips that were espousing white supremacist ideas. These are the racists.
How is that not racist, right?
Okay, look, I'm not exaggerating. They actually said that. Like, you can go look it up. What I'm saying is, people need to look. Being an American and being in this government, being self-ruled the way that our government was designed, requires work, effort, and persistence. And we've gotten away from that. Like, over generations, we just like this guy, he's gonna go take care of us, we don't have to worry about it. We took our eye off the ball as a society, and we're reaping that. We're reaping the results of that right now.
You guys might disagree, but I forget who I was talking to about it earlier, but I took an Uber here, and I was talking to the guy in the car, and he's a Democrat, but he's baby boomer, so he's a little more respectful of how things should be more complex. And we were talking about prior presidents, and Clinton might have been one of the better presidents we've had in a really long time. He went against his party. He did things that he did, man. He did. He bombed the shit out of Sarajevo, which is not a democratic thing to do. He lifted the question, which on some levels I support it. On some levels, I think lifting the question in the military might have put us where we are now. But I'd like to think that was just any idiosyncratic side effect of what he did.
Bill Clinton was not a Marxist.
He was certainly was not. I think he could have gone Republican, and he might have done many of the same things and
He was
still
a
got elected.
consummate politician.
Look,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
He
I
could have
agree,
been,
and
yeah, you're right.
he's probably.
And the difference between him and what you see now is, he'd been in office 2 years. He lost control of Congress overwhelmingly. And he basically went to school on it. He learned what they were telling him. And as a result, he changed his behavior. He basically triangulated.
He
And
became
as a
more
result,
complex.
he survived. He isn't sitting there just saying, no, I'm right. And we just got to find better voters that'll vote the right way,
He unlike until we got to look, he was not an ideologue, right? Trump was not an ideologue. Bush and Obama have a lot more in common as far as being ideologues, in my opinion. But Bill Clinton was not an ideologue. He was a politician. He was self-serving. Okay. England. Thanks. Yep.
Can I get one as well?
But what I'm saying is that the Democrat Party of the 1990s, that's dead. That's gone. The Democrat Party, or again, I refer to it as a party, has been completely, it's like invasion of the body snatchers. Okay. They are not interested. They are not interested in what is best for America. They are interested in what is best for the party. Like I said this a long time ago. It's like if you can really make sense of the decisions they're making and what they're doing when you look at it through the lens of everything they do is what is in the best interest of the party. It's not what's in the best interest of our country. They just passed this bill and no one knows what's in it. No one has any idea. Look, we're supposed to be a representative republic. We're supposed to have say, and our representatives in Congress don't even know what's in the bill they voted for. Okay, so in Virginia, you have on the micro level, you have parents that are, thank you very much. You have parents that are saying, look, we need to be involved in these decisions. And that's in a school board, in a county, in a state. And yet on the federal level, you have our so-called representatives that are voting on laws that they haven't even read. They don't even know what's in it, that are spending money that our grandchildren haven't even earned yet. Okay, so that's not, eventually people are going to either figure this out or they're not. I think they're going to figure it out. I have faith in people. The one thing I notice is people who are like Marxists and like ultra leftists, they don't like other people. They don't like their fellow citizens. They look down their nose at them. They accuse them of the worst things. I have a lot of faith in my fellow citizens at the end of the day. And I think we do pull this out. I'm just hoping that it's not after like a lot of bad stuff happens. But in the end, here's the thing. I said this to my dad like a few weeks ago. I was like, the one thing that the party forgets is that America is full of Americans. Right? This country is full of people who have a way of looking at the world that is different than a lot of people in the world. And that is self-determination, consent of the governed, individual liberty, all that good stuff. It means something. And it's something that you want to talk about culture, that is our culture. Right? I mean, look at like what Winston Churchill said, when like in World War II, like when Germany saw that Japan brought the US into the war, they were like, oh shit. Because they knew that the people of this country would fight. It's not a joke. And that legacy, it lives on. So anyway, my long-term outlook is very positive. My short-term outlook, I don't know.
Frightening.
It could be very frightening.
My issue is the words. Like we talk about words a lot, and I think we're all in agreement that words are really getting changed. Some words don't have the same meaning they before. And a little joke later, but indoctrination wasn't a word we used even a semi-regular basis, unless that was like your thing that you're talking about. And we talk about it all the time. I talk about it outside of the show with other people. It's like I'm feeling indoctrinated. It's actually become part of like the social dogma. Like we are simply being guided down a certain path.
Correct
And it's
on.
real frightening. The thing with all this that bothers me the most, and we've been talking, we were leaning a lot towards the non-binary, binary, all that issue of all this stuff. But woke isn't just this. It's also, you like that, right? It's now everything. It's back to that shame culture thing. If you don't believe what I believe, you should be ashamed. How can you be for pro-choice but against abortion in your own mind? Well, because it's my mind. You don't want to be painted into a box, yet you want to paint me into a box. This is what's bothering you about things. And worse than that is these people that say, don't put me in a box. I'm not a boy or a girl. I'm this. Oh, so you're that other box that's more complicated, is how I see it. It's like they want to pick their box. Fine, but don't, when you're a ideological outlier, that's fine. Do your thing. But because you are the outlier, because you're the non-norm, you should be more respectful of that which is around you. You should fight. That's fine. You want to do that, fight from within the machine. Don't try and break down the machine and recreate it in your visage, because
Right. Well said.
it's not fair. I go through my life doing what I do for a living. I'm not going to say it again, because I like to help people, right? I have had urine flung at me, and the next day I give a bro hug to the guy because they're sick.
Even on this podcast.
I've often flung my own urine in my own face. But the point being is, don't you ever, I'm going to get a little angry here. Don't you ever fucking tell me that I'm a bad person because I don't think exactly like you. Because I'm here to defend you not thinking like me. When I was in the military, I didn't go, wait, which ones am I going to defend with this army? I didn't go, I'll defend the whites, but no, not the other ones, not them. No, I'm there. If you're going to be if you're going to have principles, make sure that they support as many of the general populace as possible. And that doesn't mean to diminish those that are not the same as you. It simply means to support everybody and guide them towards supporting the others. I deal with a community that is very underrepresented. Very. I have a patient right now that is 6'4", 280. She looking like a man. But she's a good person, but she was throwing haymakers at security guards, knocking people out. But I got through to them. So I cannot like all this non-binary shit and also support that person.
Of course.
Now, and I'll go one step further. I sent you guys all a video. I don't know who saw it. I think some of you guys saw it, about this guy at the Heritage Foundation who was a transgender female for like 6-8 years of their life. Now identifies as a male. And the most profound, it's maybe one of the most profound things I've seen since that Yuri Bezmenov video that we've seen. And at the end of this video, he says, and I thought this was really poignant, he said that when your child comes to you and says, I think I'm a girl, or I feel attracted to men, or any of these things, the minute you start calling him a female when they're male, or accommodating their feelings that they say make them feel different, you're actually going, yep, you're broken. You're acknowledging it, that, and that is right at the root of mental health problems. You're literally giving them excuse for every bad decision they make from then on. And I'm not saying it's a bad decision for them to want to be a female or to perhaps be homosexual later, which I think is a larger portion of this. But you gotta go, what made you feel like this? And parents aren't doing that now. They're taking the lazy route. They're going, yes, Johnny, you're a girl. Let's call you Joanne now. And in some cases, it's probably right. In fact, there are genetic situations where they have all the other markers for being that opposite sex, and it's very appropriate. But parents are being lazy and not just asking the simple questions, what made you feel that way? Because I think if we ask those questions, we're going to find that a lot of them are just homosexual, which is fine, man. We've been past the ugly part of that for a long time. We should be supporting that part and not supporting this thing where people are cutting off parts of their bodies or taking in hormones that, when we have an abundance of either of them on our own sides, like me with more testosterone or Mike with more estrogen, see that? That it still causes a problem. Even when they're appropriate for your body, if you have too much of them, they fuck you up. But no, let's do this. Let's take somebody that is mentally infirm and let's fuck with their hormones on top of everything. And then let's take away any kind of assessment as to whether their decision-making process is in.
Yeah, but, and Zeus, it's worse because like you said, we're talking about people that can't.
It can get worse than that?
No, what I'm saying is it's worse because now we're talking about people that can't even give their own consent to such treatment, but some of the parents are doing it. So I agree with you.
I think it's horrible. You're telling them they're broken when they're 4. There's something wrong with you, Johnny.
You're also doing this stuff to them before they're 18 when they can do it themselves. It's fucked up.
I know, it's sad. And I do support them. I support them when it's just them being sick. And I support them when it's actually an appropriate thing. But I do not support the fad that has become.
I'll go further. I think it's child abuse.
It absolutely is. But we have to come to the point where we realize it as a society, which I don't think we're going to get to. And again, I say, I firmly say I have a great deal of compassion for these people. I never mock them.
No, of course not.
I take care of them.
Yeah,
despite understanding where they come from, I don't. But I do know they shouldn't be getting estrogen when they're a male, because women, I joke with my female nurse friends all the time. I'm like, how do they do this? And they actually, they never get mad about this. I say, you're testy once a month when you have your estrogen going through your system. And they want to put it in somebody it's not even supposed to be in. That's bad. That's like, it's abuse, be it child or adult or mental health patient. It's just abuse. It's a they see dollars and start putting those prescriptions out. I've said it before, I'll say it quickly. 2005, one center for gender reassignment. 2021, over 300. That screams of money. Okay, I'm gonna step off my soapbox.
All right.
Did I go too far?
Probably.
Maybe.
It bothers me a lot.
It's not really about those individuals. It's just the way that the collective woke culture, all of them together, the way they approach those situations. Like Jordan Peterson called them ideologically possessed. They have such a fervor about, and they attack anybody that's against them or doesn't go along with what they want to do. That's the problem, really. It's not about that individual situation. that person or what that person wants to do, that's okay. It's just, you don't need to collectively attack somebody or have somebody fired from their job or, make somebody apologize because they don't agree with it. Everybody should be allowed to think whatever they want to think. That's where the problem comes in. And like Mike was saying, he kind of thinks that society will come around quickly. I kind of think it's going to take longer.
I do too.
When we look at the
Mike
the
said,
Russians from 1917 until 1989, when they finally realized what a mistake they made. It's going to take that long before
yeah.
all of these idiots kind of realize, okay, this isn't a good idea, what we're doing.
I think that people who are of like mind, in other words, those that value, Americanism, and I can point to people, journalists like Matt Taibbi, who used to write for Rolling Stone magazine. He's a very liberal guy, classical liberal, right? I consider myself in a lot of ways classical liberal, but he was really sounding the alarm on this this sort of Marxist wave in journalism and how journalism is really dead. And journalism in this country is dead. I mean, it really is dead. I mean, no one, the party media.
There are articles in the New York Post that have no authors assigned to them.
Yeah, it's
They're
just like
all
staff.
anonymous.
It's like staff.
It's
Yeah.
fucking
It
infuriating.
makes Pravda.
You mean the Times?
No, sorry.
New York Times, Washington Post. I mean, like I said again,
Any of them, all of them now.
You're not seeing like varying viewpoints. You're not seeing like the Washington Post, writing an editorial, and the New York Times being like, we vehemently disagree with the Washington Post. ABC and all the alphabet people, they're all in lockstep. We've said this before. It is a mirage. It is a mirage of media. It's not media. It's propaganda. It's party propaganda. And people are in tune to it. People are getting more in tune to it. But the problem is that these people have it while everyone else was sleeping. They have taken over. What's up?
No, Tom.
Oh, they have taken over entertainment, the media, our schools, many other institutions. So that is going to take some time to kind of rest that back, right? Because everyone else was just sort of like, well, whatever, both sides are bad, whatever. But I think a lot of people are kind of waking up to it. Oh, Zeus is running out. I don't know if there's a fire. We have to leave real quick because he just ran out of here.
Yeah, I saw that.
I am ultimately optimistic. But you're talking about, I mean, the FBI, the Department of Justice. I mean, everyone said oh, the deep state. That doesn't exist. It absolutely exists. There are people that are in the government. We live right around DC. I'm friends with some of them. These are people that are career bureaucrats. They're in the government. They are in there. It doesn't matter what the administration is. And you saw it when Trump was in office, where they mobilized and they did everything they could to take the guy out. I don't know how you even make an argument counter to that. I mean, it's just the facts are the facts. But it's going to take time to get that back. I mean, a lot of our institutions are compromised. It's just the way it is. It's not, you can't just snap your fingers. It's going to take some time.
There was a time when you had your Che Rodriguez, your Tolstoy, your these counterculture, whatever culture people they were a beacon to look forward to. They were the city on the hill. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're looked at as a cyst on the ass of society. Like the complete flip of what I think as humans we wanted was people that were that at least raised the question. You know, they were looked at as inspiration, and now they're looked at as something that's messing with the flow. Mike, did you look at that video that I sent, the Yuri Bezmenov thing? Mr. Nelson?
No, I'm sorry, I did not get a chance to take a look
I
at that.
gave you one task.
Well, I'm sorry, it didn't rise to the top.
Well,
But,
so he's this ex-KGB guy, and he basically talks about, he was talking about how the communists were planning to, was it communist or Marxist? Were planning to upset other countries and take them over. And what he basically went into was causing a great deal of, what's the word I'm looking for?
He's trying to
overwhelming.
Trying to undermine the country.
Yeah, undermining the country through overwhelming them with shit that really doesn't matter. I mean, I'm going to go really hardcore and say that this whole non-binary, BLM, all these things, at the end of the day, they do matter, but they shouldn't affect the complete fabric of society. They should be addressed, but they shouldn't be the end-all, be-all of what we think about. Honestly, most of those things are just what good people should be doing anyway. Treat others nicely. Don't put people on the outside because they don't share the beliefs as you. So but he was saying that what they do is they I guess cells of a sort, and they just send out all these different thought processes and get the society overwhelmed with what do you think about. And it kind of reflected on how it feels right now with all the everything you do, you have to watch. We're in this constant state of stress. If mental illness could very well become epidemic at some point. It could be the next pandemic. People just losing their shit because they don't know what to do anymore, because they can't make the right decision, because when you choose one side, you offend the other side. It was a very interesting video. You definitely check it out. But I feel like, man, it was so prophetic.
Well, what you're saying kind of reminds me of another thing I was thinking about. Now, it's one of the 60s radicals, and I'm probably going to get their name wrong, but I think it was Pliven and Coward. And what they postulated was how to take down this country. And their idea was basically just put such a demand on the social services that it would collapse. That's one of the reasons a lot of people oppose this mass immigration. It sounds to me like what you're talking about is just taking that in another dimension. I mean, all this transgender stuff, we're basically putting a lot of demand on, I don't know, our acceptance of what the world is. And I think what it effectively does is it really weakens the foundations that most people kind of rely back on when, you're dealing with insecurity.
And that's what it is. It's insecurity in who you are. I mean, I don't want to beat it up too much, because we are from a different era than this new fantastical, just everybody's so fucking sensitive period. When we were sensitive as kids, and I'm speaking for us, Mike, you're from another century, so
yeah, when they were sensitive, they just beat us up.
Yeah, if we were oversensitive, you get beat up enough, you go, you know what? Yeah, I'm definitely mad because I'm going to take your ass to town. Or you go,
the
I'm going to stay
sensitive
inside
grade
because I
school,
don't fit
everybody
in.
beat him up. It was great.
We're just so fucking. You know what? Another country, England, could come and take us back right now because they're tougher than us.
The issue I have is it's disingenuous, right? So the proclaimed reason for things is not the actual reason for things. The actual reason for things is control and power. And the spoken reason for things is we want to make everything, equity, better, not hurt
It
people's
makes us
feelings,
weaker.
self-esteem, all that stuff. And that's not actually what the goal is. So again, if you engage in the argument on what these forces are putting out there, you've already lost, because what they're saying the issue isn't really the issue. What they're saying they're fighting for isn't really what they're fighting for. It's I mean, again, you look at this Virginia election that happened, right? You have this guy who is not a career politician. He's a businessman, worked for the Carlyle Group. His lieutenant governor is she came to America from Jamaica when she was 6 years old, U.S. Marine. She's been in senator in the Virginia legislature. And then the attorney general is a Hispanic gentleman. And our party media, the party media, is basically saying that the only reason that Youngkin and Sears and this gentleman, I'm sorry, I forget his last name, the only reason they won is because of like white supremacy and racism and white women in the suburbs who are voting, pro-white or what. It's everyone knows it's bullshit, but they have the bully pulpit. They have the bullhorn. They have the media, and so they drive the narrative. So again, when you engage with them in that arena, you've already lost. That's why I just reject it. Like I don't accept it at all. I mean, I'm like, who are these people? These people. Look, I could go on CNN and talk to any of their pundits, Don Lemon, Reed. I would destroy them. Like it maybe in 30 seconds.
Two go in, one comes out.
Long form, like hour-long interview. I'm nobody, and I would destroy them because they are mental lightweights. They have no idea what they're talking about. They talk in sound bites. They have no education about what they're actually talking about. So I just don't listen to them.
I'm
Because
kind of
they don't
looking for the
debate.
downfall
They don't
of
debate
society.
because they basically rely on calling everybody a racist because
Exactly.
they don't have any points to add to the intellectual argument.
Exactly. So it's again, it's like war games, right?
In their earbud when they're telling us this, it's saying, here's what you say. Don Lemon is he might be a sweet fella outside.
Propagandist. He's a propagandist.
Yeah, exactly. He might be a fine person outside of this, but he's selling out, so it doesn't matter.
And if you notice on their shows, they never invite anyone that is a challenging person. I mean, even people that are the rhinos or whatever, they never invite anyone that's actually going to like challenge them to anything. They ignore them, and they have so much power they can ignore them. They're
They
not.
do it. It just turns into like a shouting match where they're talking over each other.
Yeah.
They don't let anybody get a point across.
Listen, if we do one thing as a group of people, and Mike, obviously, you're my buddy from way back. I know we haven't talked a lot, but if we do one thing as a group of people, we got to stick to our principles. You know what? I'm ready to die for some of the shit that's coming out now. Mike and I were talking about it recently. If you try and make me give my kid a shot, not going to happen. He's going to be in Poland. I'll stay here and I'll fight. But I'm not going to stand idly by and be told what to do on that level.
A red line.
But
It's a red line, man.
listen, I take my shot because I have a social responsibility. Do I think the vaccine, which it's not a vaccine, it's a temporary cure. A vaccine is a dead virus. That's simple shit that they never say. You know what I mean? They never say, this is actually not a vaccine.
You're not following the science, Zeus.
Yeah, well, I am following the science. I'm actually specifically following the science. But my thing is
They changed the definition.
what's that?
They changed the definition.
So you're saying they changed words again? What a shock. But that's the one, Mike and I joke about it. We're looking at how we can buy a nice little chunk of property in coastal
man.
start the Friends of Zeus compound. Because fuck this.
The bunker.
Fuck this.
Wake up.
I'm all about that. What is it? Gleaming the cube. Christian Slater, baby. I'm done with it.
I think
And
this is how most people feel. I mean, most polls will show people are against most of these ridiculous ideas, but the problem is the media, it's an activist media. The schools are controlled by the woke Marxists. A lot of the lawyers are taught to be activists. That's why a lot of the lawyers that got arrested during the riots were throwing Molotov cocktails. These are lawyers right out of law school. This is what they were taught to do. So it's an uphill battle.
what did the psych nurse doing that?
And not just the polls, but
They went to the wrong
people,
school.
but people from all over the world believe this. Not just the polls.
You know what, though? But we're still losing our balls or whatever we identify with as our genitalia.
Losing our balls.
Polls.
Polls.
Yeah.
Hey,
What's the
let's not
polls?
talk about
Not
polls.
just the poll. Well, Tom said the polls, and I'm like, not just the polls. but
I'm done with polls
People
for
from all
today.
over the world believe the same thing.
But you know what? If we're really feeling that, let's talk about it at work.
Not really
Let's
germane
have
to the subject.
a disagreement at
Remember the
work.
line,
Yes.
I didn't hear you, but.
Germans ain't got nothing to do
No,
with
but let's have that disagreement in public without fighting. Like this show, I think we still firmly buy it is that we have differing opinions, but now we don't fight each other about it.
Look, here's the black and white, and I posted this on.
Hey, watch it. It's about
Here's the
black
thing,
and
man.
white. Don't
Look,
put me in a box.
I'm pro-vaccine for Michael.
Jack loves the.
And I think anyone that wants to get the vaccine should get the, look, talk to your doctor, whatever your doctor, and you say whatever. I don't give a shit, whatever. It's fantastic. But if you believe in your heart of hearts, and I have friends, I have family members that believe this. If you believe in your heart of hearts that this thing should be mandated, you're a tyrant. You're anti-American. You are not. You're not an American. You don't
You're a fucking
believe.
sellout.
You don't believe in Americanism. Period. I mean, if you're pro-mandate, you are pro-tyranny. Period. I would love to have someone argue with me on that and tell me otherwise. I don't see what it is.
Otherwise.
I'm pro-vaccine. I am anti-mandate. And I don't understand how anyone who believes in what this country is founded on could be pro-mandate.
First episode of this show was about this. It's about you can be on two sides of the fence. You can sit right in the middle.
It's not.
I'm 100% with you. As a nurse, I will tell you right now, if you don't get the vaccine and you get the fucking COVID, that's on you. I think you should get the vaccine. But I will never tell you you have to.
Hey, boys, I think we've been on for a while now.
Not a fucking
I thought we
shit.
were just getting started.
Not enough.
like every
I know.
Friends of Zeus catchphrase was just used in like the last 4 minutes.
I think here's the thing. I think we should start something new next week where
We say you mentioned I was a psych nurse.
and then we say on the topic. I think that would be a good thing.
What's that?
I think next week we should start a trend where we pick a topic and stay on the topic.
That's for the fans, and they're not there yet. So right now it's just for us.
Listen, I want everyone out there to write in their suggestions for a topic for the Friends of Zeus podcast.
Yes,
You're only
both
allowed
of you, send them out immediately.
One suggestion per person, please. We cannot be inundated. So one suggestion. Per
Yeah, we don't want that at the end of It's a Wonderful, or is it, Miracle on 34th Street, where all the bags of letters just get dumped in front of us, telling them how much they support us.
Hey, I did want to send a shout out to the members on Facebook of the Friends of Zeus podcast.
100 plus.
100 plus now.
That was because of Dana, by the way.
Well, yeah, me too.
No, it's just Dana. She's pretty.
Okay.
I think he just pulled a hashtag me too on us.
And anyone, if we pick your topic, you will win one of Zeus's combs as your
Yes,
as your prize.
I no longer use them.
Little used combs.
So just saying it.
Okay, so you know what, we're dwindling. So Jack, what was it you were just saying?
This multi-galaxy location episode was a raging success.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
Patriots
Patriots
Pub,
Pub.
for providing us
Yeah,
with libations and food. And this was a fun one, but I really do also think it was my angriest episode by far. So hopefully I can calm down.
all right,
Mike,
boys.
how'd you like it?
Boys, we've done it for a while.
I think
I think it's time we wrap things up.
Okay. So let's stay on though. Hold on. Thanks a lot, everybody.